The Armed Forces Retirement Home, as it is called today, is home to over 1,000 retired and disabled veterans. It has served the same purpose for over 150 years. Established in 1851, the Military Asylum, as it was then called, was the first federal institution to provide care for retired or disabled enlisted soldiers. During the 3 years the Lincolns stayed here, the majority of the 100 to 200 residents were Irish or German immigrants. Lincoln was one of several presidents invited to live here. Presidents Buchanan, Hayes, and Arthur all spent time here during their terms, but President Lincoln spent the most time here. The Lincolns moved to the Soldiers' Home for several reasons. At the White House, Lincoln was besieged on a daily basis by office seekers and social obligations. When the war began, the White House was close to military activity in the city center. Troops were drilling, swords were clanging, and equipment was moving at all hours of the day and night. In addition, that low-lying area of the city was formerly a swamp, and during the heat of the summer became a hot and stinking place. Drinking water was drawn directly from the Potomac River. Along the banks were camped thousands of soldiers and livestock. In contrast, the Soldiers' Home offered some privacy and cool breezes. In 1862, the Lincolns were also mourning their son Willie, who died just 4 months before they moved here. They were looking for, as Mary Lincoln described, a quiet place. Mary Lincoln wrote a letter to a friend in the spring of 1862, expressing anticipation of their move.
The 1st of July, we go out to the Soldiers' Home, a very charming place 2.5 miles from the city, and several hundred feet above our present situation. When we are in sorrow, quiet is very necessary to us.
The Lincolns intended to live here in the summer of 1861. But the demands upon the new president, including the attack on Fort Sumter, postponed their plans. The Civil War had begun. The Soldiers' Home was on the rural outskirts of the city, and only a 3-mile horse or carriage ride to the White House. While in residence, Lincoln sought relief here at the end of every long day. Every morning, he returned to the White House. It was well known that Lincoln traveled this route daily, and some contemporaries wrote about it. Poet Walt Whitman described,
"I see the president almost every day. He never sleeps at the White House during the hot season, but has quarters at a healthy location some 3 miles north of the city, the Soldiers' Home. I see very plainly Abraham Lincoln's dark brown face, with the deep-cut lines, the eyes always to me with a deep latent sadness in the expression. We have got so that we exchange bows, and very cordial ones."
The time that Lincoln spent at the Soldiers' Home framed his presidency and the Civil War. His first visit was a few days after his inauguration, and his last visit was the day before his assassination. Lincoln used the Soldiers' Home as a retreat and a workplace. He relaxed with family and friends here, and met with staff, cabinet members, allies, and opponents such as Congressman Fernando Wood. Secretary of War Edwin Stanton and his family sometimes lived in another house on the property. Lincoln came here to get away from downtown Washington and the White House, but in many ways, living here brought him closer to the war. Union troop tents dotted the grounds, soldiers' graves multiplied in plain view, and the pressures of war and those of the presidency took an obvious physical toll on him. Today, you will hear Lincoln's own words, as well as stories and observations by people who visited him here. You will discover Lincoln, the private man and president, at this place. This was Lincoln's home for 1/4 of his presidency. Here, he thought through his ideas and decisions about the Civil War and emancipation. This is President Lincoln's cottage.